Hey everybody, welcome back to another game development live stream for a Wizards Lizard 2. I'm Jeff from Lost Decade Games, and we announced Wizards Lizard 2 a couple weeks ago that it's going to be our next major game. And so uh, this live stream stuff is all about showing you what we're working on and that kind of stuff. So first we can take a look at what we did last week. Well, actually, first thing is I have a better chat set up now. So I've got my chat on my tablet, so hopefully I'll be able to see that a little more easily and not have to pause and catch up on chat all the time. So anyways, thanks for joining, and first we'll kind of take a look at a few things that Matt has been working on. He's been doing a lot of stuff on the art side. In fact, he just messaged me saying that he pushed some new assets, so we'll check that out. Awesome, awesome. All right, so let's just have a quick preview of the stuff that Matt's been working on. Let's turn off that sound just for now. These are the new interior graphics that Matt has been working on. They're looking pretty good. Got these nice columns and pillars, and this is kind of for the interior of the house where some of the game takes place. I've also been doing a little bit of work on the room templates, the geometry that kind of makes up the levels and stuff, and so it's feeling a little bit more. Oh, yeah, cats fighting. Cats always like to ruin my stream. Anyways, a little more variety in terms of the sizes and the shapes of the rooms, which is pretty interesting, I think. There's also an opportunity for like longer hallways and stuff, which is pretty cool. And then, you know, kind of weird rooms like this guy, stuff like that. Anyways, I'm really happy with the house graphics that Matt has been working on. And then I've been playing around with some kind of physics-based stuff, like these balls that bounce all over the place. And one of the things I'm working on right now is this bomb, which also can be shoved around, and it doesn't explode yet. Last week we worked on some explosive code, so we'll probably try and leverage that for the bomb. And let's get to that then. Alrighty, so we already have our bomb prefab, which is just this guy here, and it's actually pretty basic right now. It's just got a collider and a rigid body and just kind of moves around. So what we want to do is we want to go into our debug scene. I'll actually get rid of all these for now. Can I delete those with the keystroke? Yes, I can. Yay. Alright, so let's go find our bomb again. Put it in here. And so it's just kind of this basic. Whoop, come back. Anyways, we can put it in our mouth and move it around the level. But a couple things we want to happen. One is we need a timer so that it can blow up. So for that, we're going to open up our explosive component. So explosion and explosive. And right now, the way that it works is that it just spawns an explosion on death. But we also want to have a way for it to just have a timer. So what we can do is we can say, you know, private float timer is equal to, let's say, like 4 seconds for now. And then in the start function, we will say invoke explode in timer. And what we're going to do is create an explode function here, and actually kind of move this stuff down here so it's reusable so that it can explode if it's killed, or it'll explode based on the timer. We could also say, you know, if timer is greater than 0, then explode. It's probably better. That way not everything that has, or everything that is explosive will explode on the timer. So that should actually just kind of work by default. It won't look very good. 1, 2, 3, 4. No? Oh. It might help if I actually put the explosive component on the bomb. That generally is a good idea. All right. Oh. No, nothing. Oh, we got errors. Oh, it doesn't have a mortal component. So we'll just do a null check here. Oops. And then that should fix that right up, hopefully. Boom. There it goes. Yay. And it sticks around, so. I commented this out to test some other stuff, but, you know, we can destroy it as it explodes. Oop. There we go. So the question is, there's a couple tricky things going on here. One is that since you could put it in your mouth, okay, it still ticks in your mouth. That's perfect, actually. Wow. That's interesting because when you put the bomb in your mouth, it sets the active flag to false. So that game object is actually no longer in the world, but it will still spawn an explosion. So I guess the invoke stuff still gets called. I wonder if, like, where does the explosion spawn? Does it spawn where the bomb used to be? No. I guess the last known position, the place where you put it in your mouth, so like right about here. Yeah, there it goes. Okay. So that's interesting. Too many letters. Yes, it's programming is one of those things where, you know, it just takes a little bit of experience and being comfortable with the stuff. It's actually a lot simpler than it looks, I think. A lot of it's kind of conceptual, and the syntax is just kind of the way to describe what the concepts are. But the syntax, you know, by and large, the syntax isn't very expansive, you know. There's only a pretty small amount of things you have to remember. It's more about remembering the concepts and how they work. So I think there's a couple things we want to do here. One is that we want to alter the carrying script. So this is the carrying component, and this is what actually stores the game object that we're carrying and then drops it or throws it based on input. So what we want to do is when we pick it up, really what we want is, I think we're going to want an update script here, like public void late update. I like using late update for this kind of stuff because it's guaranteed to fire after all of the movement has happened. So what we can say is if target, which is going to be our carried item, is not equal to null, then we'll say target dot transform dot position is equal to transform dot position. So what we're saying here is that every frame, if we have a target, then basically change its position to be our position, which is the carrying entity, which in this case, of course, is going to be weapon. Transform. Wow, I misspelled it twice. That's terrible. At least one of those is autocorrect, I hope, or autocomplete. Anyway, so pose up, and looks like we can put it in our mouth. Boom. Look at that. Works pretty well. Honestly, I thought that part was going to be harder, but it looks like Unity just handles that for us. The only other thing we might want to do is have some way to visualize on the character that the bomb is about to blow up, but I don't know. We'll see how that works out. Cool stuff. I like that. That was easy. The next thing we want to do is add some polish to it, and I think that one thing I want to do is flash it red, and then maybe kind of tween it with some scaling effects. So we're still using lean tween. There are some other tweening libraries that have been suggested to me that I want to try out, but there's a lot of other stuff I want to try out too, and so lean tween kind of works for me at the moment. So that's what I'm want to continue to use. Anyway, so we're good on that end. For the bomb itself, let's see. The timer's going to be... I wonder if there's a way to know how much time is left with the timer, the invoke timer. I think that the hard part here would be if I keep track of the time myself and I don't call invoke, like let's say that I had a function in here called update, and I have like a timer where it's like, elapsed plus equals time dot delta time or something. The problem is that this update function won't get called if it's not active. I guess what I could do is in carry, when I'm altering the position of it, I could also call like target. Well, I'd have to reference it explicitly, right? Or I could call send message. I think that works too. Send message update. I don't know if that's something I want to do though, because I don't really know exactly how that would react. But for now, let's just try and do a little bit of polish on here. So let's see. We do want to have a tweening mechanism. And we want the tweening to do two things. One, it should flash and scale the object. So let's start with the flashing. Let me take a look. It's been a few days, weeks, since I actually wrote some of this stuff with the color. But I actually gave myself a helper object here, fade sprite color from to duration. So this thing is essentially a sprite as well. So let's just do a quick test here and say effects.fade sprite color, and we're going to fade it from, so it's going to be this game object, and we're going to fade it from color.white to color.red. And we'll do this over, let's say, half a second. The interesting thing about Unity, and actually this is true for a lot of 3D stuff, I think, is that white is actually the color that is by default applied to the sprite. So it's not like there isn't a color being applied. Anyways, let's see what that looks like. So that changes it to red. So now we just kind of want to cycle that and flash it. So let's see. Oh, there's actually a lean tween color thing too, right? So lean tween. Documentation is actually pretty helpful. So let's see. So it's going to be color, lean tween color. So it looks like syntax is very similar. I think that's actually what this is doing too. Oh, I know what the problem was. We use this because for some reason the lean tween color wants to use the material color, not the sprite color. So we had to kind of create our own color fader. Right. I think what we want to do though maybe is return the descriptor. It's called desk. Anyways, the descriptor is actually just kind of a handle to the tween that lean tween uses so that you can, basically set the delays or set the easing and that kind of stuff. So we can say lt desker desk equals whatever. And we actually want this to loop. So we're going to say set, I think it's called set ping pong? No, set loop ping pong. Let's check the documentation actually. So this will be the descriptor, set loop clamp, set loop ping pong. Loops, and how many times you want to loop in both directions. So yes, one. One is what we want. Excuse me. So set loop ping pong. That should basically just take it there and back. There it goes. Perfect. The other thing we can do is we can also set the easing. So we can like say set, I think it's ease, and then it's going to be lean tween type dot ease in out sign, for example. I don't know that we actually need that though, because it looks kind of funny in our little test case. And I think it's going to be happening so fast that, yeah. The next thing we want to do is kind of set this up into a loop. And what I could do with lean tween is kind of just tell it to do it indefinitely. But I actually want the flashing to get faster as the thing gets closer to, exploding. So the first thing we're going to do is, the other thing we need to do is also set in on complete. So we can say set on complete, which is going to be on flash complete, we'll say. And that's just going to be a function that, put right here, on flash complete. And then we're going to move this to another void flash. And on flash complete, we're going to call flash again. But here is where we would say, float duration is equal to 0.5 f. And then we'll put duration right here. And then to do, this would be, reduce duration based on how close to exploding. So, as this gets close to exploding, on to like 1.5. And we're probably going to use some kind of lerping function to do that. Yeah, Guys Mister is asking, how do you feel about Iwata? He's referring to the president of Nintendo, who just passed away recently at age 55, I guess. I think it's really sad, Obviously, he's probably a big influence at Nintendo. I myself, I heard of his name a few times, and obviously I've seen a lot of the work that he's done. And so, I think it's pretty crappy for someone to pass away that early in life, which kind of sucks, sounds like he had bile duct cancer or something like of that nature. But yeah, 55 is way too young to be passing away, so I think it's really sad that happened, and especially to a creative and fellow game lover. Matt and I were actually talking about this earlier today, and there's a quote that he had that we both actually found really impactful, and that was, he was talking about his games compared to Miyamoto, and he was saying how I'm paraphrasing here. I don't know the exact quote, but something to the effect of, his games were more technically advanced, with better engines or graphics or, physics or whatever. But Miyamoto's games had more imagination and they were more popular, and so it was kind of like a wake-up call for him about how the content of your game is really the most important part, and the imagination that you put into it, not necessarily the technical excellence. Like how many blades of grass can you render, or how many polygons is your main character, or all those other things. Anyway, so it's something that I try to keep in mind. Not that we really have a problem with technical overachieving, because we kind of work in 2D and we work with lower res sprites and stuff like that. But it's something good to remember, right? Anyways, small tangent there, but yeah, very sad overall. So anyways, back to our flashing bomb. So now when we invoke the explode function with a timer, we'll call flash, and the first time it'll be 0.5. Actually, every single time it'll be 0.5 in between, and then it'll just kind of keep looping. And then when it explodes, we want to say lean tween dot cancel all between source game objects, just in case, so we don't have any kind of weird problems with the tweens trying to complete. So there you go. It's kind of flashing. It's how many times is that? Let's see. So it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, which is about right because we have it on a half-second interval, and it takes half-second to get to red, then a half-second to go back to white, and it's a 4-second duration. So that kind of works out well. Let's see. So what can we do? I guess the thing we could do is we could have what we really want is like how long is left on the timer. The ghetto fabulous way of doing this for now. Let's see. I wonder if this is still going to get called actually when it's inside the mouth. Let's check that out and just see if that's true or not. So what we're going to do is like flash, 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 great, explode. Okay. So let's see what happens when we put it, oops. Okay, it still explodes, but the tweening doesn't get called. Oh, I know what's going on there. The carry script actually removes the tweens on that object when it gets picked up. Actually, I don't think it's the carry script. I think it is the the tongue script actually. So the tongue and the carry script are actually separate. And so when, let's see, I have a lot of dead code in here. I should probably take that out. Tween.cancel. That will be the tongue's tween. Hey, Rye Guy. Nice to see you. Thanks for stopping by. Let's see. So when the sticky tongue encounters something, so that would be in the on trigger enter. And yeah, this is where it cancels that. And actually, the primary reason that that was done was because of these kind of floating items that you could pick up, and they kind of have this like sine wave tween where they float up and down. And I wanted to cancel that, but I think that here is actually the wrong place for that to happen because there could be a number of tweens on the target that are all executing, and that we don't want to always cancel them all. So really what should happen is that we should fire an event on this game object. Like fire you got picked up event. and then which would allow it to cancel any polish that needs to be canceled. So let's try that. So if we take that out and then we go back to the bomb, okay, it's working. And let's put it in the mouth. Okay, the tweening is still going on, so that's fine. That is fine. The other thing we want to do is we want to have kind of like a squish effect. I think I actually might have, let's see, kind of a squish. I think we might kind of just do like this, like a. So we can scale it to basically, we're going to copy this and we're going to put it in here. So we're actually going to create two different tweens. So we're going to scale this game object along the X, so it's going to get thinner and taller, so it's kind of going to be like a whoop. And we'll do that over 0.5 as well. And let's see, LTDS. Just gonna make this work first, and then we'll make it a little more pretty as we do. We'll say set loop ping pong 1, and we'll do it at the same time frame. I gotta put an F on there because it's a float. And let's see what we got. There we go. That's looking a little better. I think 2 is a little bit too much. Let's see. What about something more like 1.5? It's not bad. It's not bad. I think I want to set the easing though. Set ease. So, guys, Mister, hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, is asking how many bosses are going to be in this game, and bosses are probably the best parts of the games in his opinion. And I tend to agree. Bosses are a lot of fun, and bosses are one of the things that I love making a lot. And I've already had some really cool ideas for boss mechanics involving the tongue, which is going to be a lot of fun. As to how many bosses are going to be, that's still on the table. It's going to be, in a lot of ways, similar to the first Wizard's Lizard, and so, but hopefully with more bosses. So we're going to have, you know, several environments, and then hopefully we'll be able to do more than one boss per environment is kind of the hope there. I don't think the bosses are going to be quite as complicated as they were in a Wizard's Lizard 1, at least not complicated in the bad ways. Their behavior might be simplified a little bit and build more on kind of the existing behaviors of the monsters. One of the bosses that I liked the most from Wizard's Lizard 1 was the Sewer Hag, because her behaviors are very close to the lurkers that pop up from the slime pools in the sewer, and so it kind of feels like the game was preparing you for that boss because it shares a lot of similar behavior, but it's just a lot harder. So anyways, we're going to set an easing here, and we're going to say lean tween type is going to be ease in out. And I think that's just going to, that might just look how we want. Oh, nope. Oh, right. So I think ease in out doesn't actually, there needs to be like, let's do the sine wave. Ease in out sine. That's the same one we're using on the tongue, actually. I like it a lot. If you guys hadn't seen I think last week sort of showed that off. But anyways, the tongue kind of shoots out, and then, you know, it slows down as it gets to the apex, and then goes back in. Anyways, let's take a look at the bomb. That's kind of fun. Anyways, that's probably all the polish will do for now, just because you know, we'll probably come back and refine that later. But the hooks are in, and it kind of works the way that we want to. I think that we'll still try and get the speeding up thing going on, however, because that would be pretty cool. Let's see. So I think that the cheesy way to do this for now is to say, you know, we'll have a float elapsed is 0, and then when we start the timer, we'll set it back to 0 again. Not that that really matters, but we'll see. And then what we want to do is we want to say, how far into the animation are we from elapsed? And so we need a normal that will represent that. And so, you know, for example, bring up the handy dandy calculator here. If the overall time is 0.5, you know, we want, like, let's say like 0.3 is passed divided by 0.5. That's like 60% of the way through the animation. And excuse me. You know, that's what we can use to kind of speed it up and slow it down. And so what we can do is we can use the lerping function, which is linear interpolation, to kind of reduce that time based on how far into the animation it is. So Unity actually has a built-in lerping function that's called mathf.lerp, and it really just takes a from and a to and then a time value, right? So what we can do here is we can say the duration is math. Why can't I capitalize things? Mathf.lerp. We're going to lerp between 0.5 and 0.1. And then the normal is going to be, so we'll say progress is equal to 0. Or it's going to be elapsed, sorry, divided by timer. And then this will be our maximum duration and our minimum duration. And then we'll say progress here. And we'll get rid of that debug. And that might work, except for we're going to want to put duration here too. So the end effect is that the bomb should squish and flash more quickly as it gets closer to having lots of errors, apparently. Invalid arguments. Cannot convert. Oh. Okay. That's fine. We'll just do that. Can we just do that? Argument number 1 cannot be converted. Oh, right. I always forget to put my F's. For floats. There we go. Now we have. And is that going any faster? Let's see, 0. Let's say 0. I don't know what that'll do. It's hard to tell if that's actually working. So what we're going to do is we're going to debug.log the actual duration. So progress. No, sorry. Duration. Let's see what that looks like. 0.5, 0.5, okay. Oh, right. I forgot a key piece here. So every time that we call flash, or actually every time that flash completes, actually in here is where we'll say elapsed plus equals duration. No, yes. Times 2, because it's actually going to ping pong. It's kind of a weird way to handle this, but you know, for now we're just trying to get it to look. Hey, there we go. Wow, that's really crazy. We might need a separate timer for the squish versus the flash, because the flash actually looks pretty good like that. So let's take out the squish for a second and just see what that looks like. That's not bad. We could also just kind of go back to 0.1 so it doesn't get super fast. Yeah, that looks a little better. The other thing we could do is we could also just we could keep the squish constant, right? So what we could do is just start it here and pass a -1 to ping pong that infinitely. And instead of duration, we'll just say it's on a 3, 5, maybe 4. And let's not forget the F. There we go. We'll see what that looks like. It's okay. It's okay. I don't love it yet. Let's try like 0.3 of a second. Another thing we could do is we could also tween it, like squish it out more. So we could tween it, well, yeah. Anyways, I might mess with that later because I don't really know exactly what I want to do with that, but something along those lines. But anyways, that's pretty cool so far. And we'll walk around within our mouth and it'll blow up. Boom. I wonder if that affects the timing at all. 3, 4, boom. Yeah, about right. Cool, so we can commit that. And we'll work on some other stuff too. Let's see, get status. Let's add all this stuff. This actually includes some new images that Matt added, right? Yes. So we'll say bomb explosion and polish, and then new image files. Great. Let's take a look at some of the new graphics that Matt has been drawing too, because that's always fun. So let's check out our sprites and see. Hey, a fool's duty. He's asking, what was the first Wizard's Lizard built in, if you don't mind me asking? It was built in HTML5, actually. And it was deployed on Steam using a wrapper called Node WebKit, which is essentially a standalone Chrome instance. But yeah, it was all written in JavaScript, and we'd written our own custom HTML5 engine as well. So that's that. The tooling around HTML5 is kind of tough, I think, in a lot of ways, and so we're looking for something a little bit more powerful, which is why we've moved over to Unity, because we're focusing on desktop games. And while you can make HTML5 games for the desktop, it's not the path of least resistance, which is kind of what we're going for. Also, hi to Stuart is me. Thanks for joining. Nice Super Meat Boy icon there as well. So let's, without further ado, let's see what Matt's been cooking up for us. Oh, we got a bone and a bowl and a ghost curse thing. That's pretty cool. We got a rock, a sports ball. Oh, and a spike ball. Look at all these cool things. Oh, the the Dick painting. Yes, that's just a testing image that Matt was using. It's probably a little crude, but hey, that is not going in the game. Actually, many of these things, even though they are graphics, Matt actually drew that picture, so it's not really copyright infringement or anything. I guess I don't know. Yeah, apparently Matt is surprised by that. Anyways, so I actually have this ball that I made already that we can see. Oops, this was the wrong scene. Let's go back to the main. So you can, there's our bombs in practice, in the flesh. So we have this ball right here that you can kick around, and you can spit it out, and it bounces, all that good stuff. That's an old ball graphic, so we're going to replace it with this new one. And let's see. First thing we do is let's check out what the image looks like. We're using 64 pixels per Unity unit for our graphics right now. And let's see, let's just do an automatic slicing on this to kind of get the sizing correct. And let's see. 61 by 64. Matt is not so good at keeping these things powers of 2. Either that, or is that just the sprite itself? Before I talk bad about Matt, let's see. I'm not that familiar with Paint.net. Anyways, doesn't matter. I'm going to call him out anyway because that's what I do. And I guess we'll keep, I'm going to move the anchor point a little bit lower so the ball, that's a little too low. Maybe like 3.5, maybe 4, 3.5 looks fine for now. So the ball kind of sits like not in the center of the tile here. It's like kind of got this, you know, isometric, I guess, effect to it. Well, I guess you learn something new every day, Matt. Anyway, so what we're going to do is we're going to go into our objects. We got this ball, and then we'll just replace the sprite with the new one, wherever it is. I guess it's going to be down in the S section. Holy crap, there's a lot of sprites. Sports ball. This is something we had in the first game that was kind of fun. Let's see, so they should just kind of work. Yeah. Although it looks like the oh, I guess the problem with the anchor point being all weird is that they kind of do this thing. So maybe that's not something we want. Maybe we don't want that at all. In fact, we probably want to go back and change that so that it is just in the center, because that's going to look better when it's spinning around like crazy. Oop. Nope. So bad at the ball. Whee! Anyways, that was good. So now we're going to make a another thing I'm working on is a hazardous projectile. We're going to use the spike ball for that because why not? I asked Matt to draw me a hazardous projectile. This is what he drew. So actually, this is it's about the size. Not exactly. Okay, so we got that. And let's go create this guy real quick. Spike ball. Just call it spike ball. And the first thing we're going to add is our depth component so that it'll keep it layered in the correct order visually. And then we're going to add a circle collider, which is way too big. It's also not very centered either. We can fix that. Right about there. And then maybe take this down to like 0.3. That's pretty good. Pretty good. And then we'll add a rigid body, 2D, which is the Unity physics stuff. We don't want gravity. We definitely want to interpolate it. And we're not going to freeze the rotation on this guy because we want him to kind of spin around all crazy like. Although we do want to give him some properties like we want to select a physics material. We're going to make this from metal. So I've created a few materials here for physics 2D stuff like stone, rubber, and metal. So like the sports ball is made out of rubber, and the spike ball can be made out of metal, so it won't, bounce the same way. Changes the friction and stuff like that too, or it can. I don't think that it actually does at this moment, but it could if I wanted it to. We also want a little bit of drag on it because we want it to kind of slow down as it rolls. We don't want it to just feel like it's in the space vacuum. So we have circle collider, and then I think we're going to call this global hazards, and also tag with carryable, and then we will put it in here. So the global hazards group is something that is just there to have hazardous stuff that can collide with both players and monsters or really anything else. Although I'm probably going to rename that something else, like kind of physical objects or something, like anything in the world that you would reasonably expect to collide with, in the physical sense. So we got the spiked ball in there. It's object spiked ball. I'll probably delete it from here now, so we don't confuse ourselves and have weird stuff hanging around in the scene. Excuse me. And for now, it'll just, oops. For now, it'll act just like everything else. It'll just bounce. So we'll put it in here. We'll say spiked ball. We'll get rid of the bomb for now too. Anyways, now you can carry on a spike ball in your mouth, and you can. Whoa! Apparently, it just flies off the screen too. So we've got the map. Yeah, it's got a circle collider 2D. It's a global hazard. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe it's not colliding with walls. I made it a prop instead. There we go. Hehehe. Can also play soccer with these things. Whoop, whoop. That was my sound effects. Anyways, really though, the reason we want a hazardous spike ball is because we want to be able to collide with enemies and props and other things that might be things that could take damage. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add the hazardous component here. And this thing will just do 1 damage. I've been messing with the hazardous component a little bit too, so that essentially if it's not traveling at a certain speed, it won't do damage to you. So if it's like under a velocity magnitude of 3 units, then, well, it was 5, but I just changed it to 3, then it won't damage you. Or damage whatever it runs into. So, with that in mind, we put the hazardous component on there. It's already colliding with the walls and maybe the enemies. Let's take a gander here and see if it actually works. So if I run into it, it shouldn't do any damage to me if I kick it around. Oh, That arrow's moving fast enough for it to damage me. Come here. No? Alright. Right. Alright, let's see if we can find a slime to spit this thing at. Slime, slime, slime. There's some. Nope. I pressed the drop button. Yeah! For some reason the slime keeps killing though. He's dead though. He's really dead. Ow. So this guy. Yeah! That's pretty fun. Mute Winter, thanks for joining, is asking in chat, is there a visual tool to edit the house XML level files, or did you come up with this level format yourself? I came up with it myself because the procedural generator is all custom, and so there aren't any tools really to do what I wanted it to do. I mean, maybe there are, but I didn't happen to use any. The XML files I just edit by hand, and then the level config script is how they get serialized into an object. So really this object is just kind of a bunch of classes that get serialized and deserialized to XML. And C# does that by default with the XML, what is it? System XML serialization namespace. And then just real quick, I have this basically a static function here called load XML. And you give it a XML file and you give it an object type, and then it will deserialize that XML into that object and return it to you. And so that's what I use here. And so it's just a format that I came up with myself. It's been through a lot of iterations, but essentially just has all the information that I need and I want in order to generate the dungeons that we have. Yeah, the Unity is interesting for procedural generation because, you know, a lot of the Unity workflow is kind of geared towards scenes, you know, and so like in a different game you might have each level be its own scene or something, right? Or you have more static levels. And we use this tile editing program called Sprite Tile, in which you can create kind of static content, and we kind of use it in a weird way where I create the room templates as static maps, and then the procedural generator will essentially stitch them together in different ways in order to get kind of randomized layout. So anyways, we have the spike ball, so it can do damage to you. So that's actually pretty low, that threshold right now. We need that to be back more like 5. One thing that's interesting about the Unity physics system is that all the different values you can tweak between like the mass and the friction and the bounciness and all that stuff to make your kind of 2D stuff feel and bounce like you think it should. I think those things have too low of an angular drag. I think angular drag is what controls how much they. So like if I set it's like 100. Let's just see. Yeah. So setting the angular drag kind of makes it so it doesn't really spin very much. So what I think I want is to actually have that be more like 1, which would be 4 times what it was previously. And so it'll just kind of slow down the spinning more quickly. I don't know, for some reason it looks better to me when the spiky thing doesn't rotate as fast. Oh, I'm going to mess up this slime. Bam! You got spike balled slime. Oh, I can't climb slimes right now. I'm in the middle of breaking all kinds of code, so that's fun. Woo! Woo! It's funny, Matt and I were talking about procedural generation today, and we kind of came to the conclusion that there's a lot of several static games where you get in a situation where if it's difficult you have to do the same jumps and stuff over and over again, and like, you know, that's a perfectly valid game design, but the procedural stuff just feels so much more rewarding to play over and over again. Okay, so we got those things. Now I want to make sure that they blow up our TNT boxes. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back into the level data. And just to kind of explain a little bit more how this stuff works, essentially what I have is these things called object groups, and the object groups have a trigger number and a density, and then a collection or an array of prefabs that could be placed there. And so, like for example here, let's put, I'll comment out that, and we'll put a different prefab here. So prefab, and I think this is going to be, I think it's props TNT, which is our explosive stuff. Oh boy. So yeah. Hey there, Divine. Thanks for joining. Divine says, to me it feels like the friction on the balls needs to be increased, not an innuendo. Yes. Yes, I agree. The friction on the balls probably needs to be increased a little bit. Woo! Yeah, that was kind of fun. Something I worked on earlier today was the explosive, adding an impulse to stuff in the way. So like if I, let's see if I can get this done in time. No. One more time. I got this time. So when you explode it, it kind of like sends it flying off into, you know, it adds a bunch of force to it like an explosion would, hopefully. So we need to go into our explosive thing, and actually we need this to be a public property. So public float. I usually make it a private property first to test it out, because if you start adding it as public, then the prefabs start caching those values. We'll call this detonate duration, and we'll make it 0 by default. And then here we'll say detonate duration, detonate duration, and I don't think we're using timer anywhere else. Oh, we're using here. Detonate duration. Alright, thanks for stopping by, Rye Guy. Sorry the Twitch stuff is not performant, but thanks for coming, as always. Unity can live reload some of the stuff. I'm kind of like bad at using Unity in that sense right now, because I am kind of stuck in the world of the browser. But what you can do is, you know, you can go into, like, let's say we go into the scene, and let me just find myself. I'll zoom out a little bit. There we go. So there we are. So I could theoretically, you know, can I select these things? No. Oh, I guess it's the level UI. Well, there's a bunch of these things in here. I guess we can turn on gizmos maybe. Let's see if we can find these. This is not a very good argument for. There we go. There's one. I would do this in a different way, but like you can edit these values in real time. So you know, I could say, I could up the mass of this particular ball, you know, and then it's gonna react differently, you know. So when I shoot it out, it's not as fast because the mass is different. So I could make the mass like, you know, 500, and then I wouldn't be able to push it at all because it's way too heavy for Raga to be able to push. So you can do stuff like that. You don't have to reload all the time. I kind of get into these, you know, habits where I have a method. Crappy Chrome Inspector. Yeah, a little bit. It's actually pretty powerful because you can just kind of like use your mouse to change the values, which I kind of like. It works a lot better when you're in a different scene. Like that's kind of the composed game scene. But here it'd be a lot easier because I can just say, okay, it's the bomb, and then I can turn on gizmos, and then for the bomb itself, I could move it around, or I could rotate it, except for the rotation is locked. I could scale it up and down, like that, and you can see all those changes in real time, like as I'm, whoop, whoa, there it goes, and then the weird part about that, though, is that it doesn't save those changes. So, like, if I make edits to an object here during runtime, it won't save those changes. So, like, for example, all those changes I made to the bomb don't get reflected, and the bomb just kind of defaults to what it was before I started making the changes. So, the downside to that approach is that if you're making changes that you want to keep, you have to note what they were, so that when you stop the play mode. Unless there's something I'm missing about the Unity inspector. I don't claim to be an expert, but that's just what I've found so far. Anyways, yeah, the debugging is a lot easier when you're dealing with, prefabs that are created explicitly in the scene. It's a little bit harder when I'm in my procedurally generated scene, because essentially all these objects are created on the fly, so I don't have them, nicely arranged here. Basically, they're children of this game object manager class that I wrote, and there's a lot of different clones of every single thing, and so it's sort of difficult to be able to pinpoint the one you want. Although one thing I do like is turning on the gizmos and being able to see the level colliders. So this is always fun. You can kind of see the walls, and then I can zoom out and use that to kind of get a sense of the level. This is like my ghetto mini map right now, and so this is what a generated level might look like. And then the way sprite tile works is that sprite tile positions the tiles where the camera is, and so there isn't a tile. That's why you don't see the backgrounds. You can still see the game objects, like all the spike balls and the paintings and the webs and the TNT boxes that are strewn about the levels, because Unity just draws those. But the way sprite tile works is that the sprites themselves, the tiles that make up the map, actually follow the camera and get reused, so it's a little more efficient. Anyways, this is kind of fun for looking at the level. You notice there's a lot more like hallways and kind of stuff like that since last time. Sketchy Code, thanks for joining the stream. It says, I was going to ask you last time I saw you streaming. Sorry if you already answered this. Do you guys not use sprite sheets? Like including lots of items, sprite one sheet, and just using the sprites for a single animation? The short answer is yes, we do use sprite sheets. Sometimes for certain things. Unity actually has built-in atlasing, and so I'm going to be trying to take advantage of that. It's not something that I've looked into very much yet, but I know that Unity does support atlasing of your stuff for you. So it's actually easier for us to edit stuff. Matt and I were talking about this, and sprite sheeting or atlasing is actually an optimization step. It's almost easier to edit things as single images, and so that's the approach that we're taking so far. But that's not always true, because we have these sheets where they have animations that are meant to be sequential, like Raga's movement animations and stuff. We keep those in separate sprite sheets, but we have separate sprite sheets for each kind of thing. So he has an idle and the crouch frame, and then his movement frames, and then pain frames, and then tongue spitting frames. So anyways, the answer is that yes, but if we can leverage Unity to create atlases for us and keep the source images as single files, it's a little bit easier to work with. And it's a little easier to change things around too, because then you don't have to worry about, oh, this sprite was at this certain cell and now it's not anymore because we added or resized or whatever. Yeah. So that's that. Okay, so what I did was I wasn't explosive. I get off track very easily, so I'm sorry about that. We have detonate duration that defaults to 0, and so that's good because that means that the TNT box, which actually has a little timer clock on it for whatever reason, does not have a detonation timer, although it is also not taking damage from the spike ball. So let's see. Sketchy Code says, I definitely agree with editing being easier. I was thinking it was painful to modify the atlas each time, but I dread having to fix it at the end. And yeah, having to relink. Yeah, that is true. It's kind of a pain in the butt to go have to relink all your sprites to all your objects, and so it's definitely something I don't want to have to do. Very soon now, I'm probably going to try and take that workflow from start to finish and just make sure that Unity's kind of built-in atlasing is doing what I want it to do. Hopefully. We'll see. Otherwise, yeah, we'll have to change up our approach. The other place where we actually use sprite sheets is in like the tiling stuff. So like, you know, all of these tile sets are actually just one big image. A thing I found with Unity though is that you definitely want to leave a lot of padding in between your sprites if you are doing a sprite sheet. Okay, so a couple things now. So the bombs are going to be broken because now the bombs have this property that they're not using called detonate duration. So we're going to go back into our prefabs and we'll go to, I think it's objects, yeah, bomb. And then they have this explosive property and we're going to set this to 4 because that's what I decided earlier was good. And then we'll just change that to be oops. Just change it to be bomb for now. Actually, it's going to be objects bomb. Categorization is kind of weak right now. Like, why is TNT and bomb not in the same category? So I'll get those things explode, and then the TNT does not. So we're looking good on that front. And there we go. So these things, oh, I see. It wasn't moving fast enough maybe the first time. Yeah, interesting. Nope. Ooh, come back. There we go. So those things, they kind of have to be close range right now because they slow down pretty quickly. You'd think the spike balls maybe should just be dangerous all the time. So we could have like a public float, call this like velocity, I already called the velocity threshold. Hey, look at that. I should just uncomment code I already have. We'll make that public. Let's see. And then we'll use that value here. If it's less than velocity threshold, it won't do any damage. And then we'll go in here. Oh, the other thing we need to do is make this, use the lit material. And then the velocity threshold here, we can say it's like, yeah, let's try 3.5. See what that looks like. Because we definitely want it to be, you know, if you just like fire this thing, there we go. Oop. Nope. Oh, I know what the problem is. Actually, the problem is I think that the TNT has too much life. No? Maybe? No, it's only got 1 hit point. So yeah, it must be the velocity check on the spike ball. So we can go in here, we can just 3 felt a little too aggressive. Oh, no. I wonder how fast. No. So I can definitely kick it fast enough to kill me. So I don't have to figure that out. The magnitude of the velocity is maybe not the exact. I got shit. Woo! Where did it go? Let's turn off gizmos. There we go. I have no idea where that thing went. It's gone. Just flew out of the world. I have no idea where it ended up. Bam. Maybe a little bit more knockback too with the spike balls. Although it is fun to kill the slimes. So this is still not still not feeling exactly the way I want it to. I'll have to figure out how to make that act the way I want it to, because I guess I just really need a... It feels like it should have a low velocity check. Especially for stuff like TNT. I feel like if you so much as like sneeze on the TNT, that it should blow up. You know, maybe that's the problem here, is that I need to have some kind of sensitivity setting for the explosives where, you know, if they basically get touched by anything, they blow up. Maybe I shouldn't rely on the... Maybe I shouldn't rely on the mortal component to do that for me. Although that would mean that if I just, like, you know, if I kick this into it, or I just even collide with it myself, that it would do damage to me. So I'll have to figure that out. Mute Winter says, surprised to see C# over Uniscript given your JS background. I've got heavy JS background. Uniscript is a definite draw for me. Is it a performance-based choice? The choice is actually based upon the fact that Unity's C# support seems to be the first-class citizen. It seems to be the way that they... I don't know if I would say they want you to write it, but a lot of the examples that you will find are in C#. And Unity script looks like JavaScript in some ways, but it's also got a lot of kind of stuff bolted on to make it play nicely with a strongly typed environment, which Unity is. And so, you know, you'll see type definitions in Unity script. So it doesn't look or really act exactly like JavaScript. And so for me, that was kind of one of the choices that, you know, I'd rather go with something like C# where it seems like it is kind of the de facto standard, rather than like kind of a bastardized JavaScript. That's a good question, though. I mean, it kind of comes down to what you're most comfortable with. I actually happen to be comfortable with C# as well. I did a lot of C# development before I got into web dev, or during the same time, you know. And so those are the reasons that I picked C#. But you know, you could always pick something else depending on your the level of comfortableness with the other languages. Yeah, it's kind of an interesting choice. I also kind of wanted something a little different, just because I've been writing JavaScript for so long that it was kind of fun to dip back into another language and do that kind of stuff. And the stuff, you know, C# has a lot of cool stuff going for it, I think. Maybe even over JavaScript. I don't know. I kind of oscillate between, you know, super JavaScript fanboy and then disgusted with JavaScript sometimes. Yeah, you really couldn't use a lot of, like... That's the thing with Unity, right? Is that Unity, even with C#, you know, you can use some C# libraries that do specific things, like... and you could probably use JavaScript libraries that do very specific things, but, you know, it can't interact with the DOM whatsoever, right? If you're going to interact with, like, images or anything else, it has to be done the Unity way. So you could theoretically have some like kind of platform agnostic stuff, like perhaps procedural generation. So for example, I have these classes here, this dungeon generator stuff, and this dungeon generator stuff is actually just plain C#. It has no Unity stuff in it whatsoever. So all of the math it's using is just the standard C# math library, not the Unity Math F library. So you could, I mean, I assume you could do stuff like that with JavaScript, but I don't know. To your question about performance, though, I would hope that there's not a big performance difference between JavaScript and C# support for Unity, but I don't know for sure if that's the case or not. So let's maybe see if we can make this a little better. I'm trying to think about how best to approach this problem with the spiked ball, because I want it to be pretty lethal. It could just be that I'm kind of barking up the wrong tree with how this is set up with the velocity threshold, but I'm not sure. I think we'll also want to check in here though to make sure that the velocity threshold is actually greater than 0. So we can kind of the velocity threshold is greater than 0, and the velocity threshold. So if it's not null, if you have a rigid body, and the velocity threshold has a value, and that value is greater than the magnitude, then return. Otherwise, don't. So we could go back in here, and let's just see how that feels with the. So let's see, let's zero that out. So now this thing should be hazardous all the time. So if I just walk into it. Whee! The problem with that, though, is that I'm going to take damage every time I put one in my mouth. Which is actually maybe an interesting mechanic. You know, maybe that's what we want for the spike ball. Whoa, you know, it's pretty dangerous. And so you could just, it's kind of like resource trading, right? Like maybe it does a lot of damage. Or, you know, it's a useful weapon because, you know, it's the way that you can kill things and blow things up. But there's a cost to it. Ooh. That force applied from the explosion is pretty crazy. It just goes flying out of the stratosphere. Oops. I can't pick one up now because I'm going to die. No. And I can still headbutt them and blow them up. Yeah, that's true, Mute Winter. It really feels not great when the TNT, you know, takes a hit from a projectile and just kind of sits there and is like, I'm good. I'm not explosive at all. So we'll just have to see how that works out. I think I'm just going to go the simple route for now. I might just comment out this code for now, the velocity threshold, because I don't like the way that feels at the moment. And honestly, it's a little overcomplicated, I think, because it requires you to have some kind of, you know, knowledge about the speed, right? I wonder if we could mess with bombs and TNT. That sounds like fun. Woo! Hey, look at that. That's pretty fun. Get that chain reaction of stuff going all over the place. You know, you could take the bomb and spit it over there. Didn't really Didn't blow up the spike ball the way I was hoping that it would. Just kind of hoping that I could like grab one of these guys. Nope. Oops. Oh, there's no bombs here. Maybe we should set it up in our debug scene. That might be a little easier. So, oh, we already have a bomb in here. Let's grab a TNT object. Put it right there. And then spike balls, because why not? Always fun. Oh no! I almost blew myself up. Yeah, time this just oh, that was not right time. So it's like 4 seconds. So it's like 2, 3, 4. No? Okay. I'm not sure those are gonna go off. Oops. Oh, come on. It's still ticking while it's in my mouth, right? Yeah. I think 4 seconds is just a lot longer than I think it is. You know, you have to like, bam. I'm really bad at timing things. This is why I'm bad at video games. Oh no. I dropped it instead of spitting it out. Oh, come on. Okay. Anyways, my timing is terrible. Mute Winter says, grab TNT and throw for explosion on impact would be a cool mechanic. Yeah, that would be pretty cool. So that's kind of where the bomb comes in, right? The bomb is kind of meant to be like a explosive thing that you can control. You can move it around. I mean, you can move around the TNT too, actually. You can kind of like nudge it around. I wonder what happened if I just... Oh! That's fun. Nope. Okay. Awesome. I think the force on the explosion thing is kind of crazy. Explosion, explosive. No, that's not where it's at. I think it's, yeah, it must be explosion. Yes, explosion is where the force is added. Oh, it's 100, Jesus. That might be too much. Yes, it would definitely help if there was a countdown timer on his head. We really do need some kind of visualization for that because, yeah, ow. See, that didn't, I think I made the spike ball too heavy again. Oh no, it's got a mass of 1. So that's just weird about the physics stuff sometimes, right, is that for some reason we've got this bomb here, and let's see, let's put all this stuff next to each other. So we'll put that pretty close, but not touching. We'll put the bomb right up against it. And then when that explodes, kaboom, there it goes. Nice. That's still really strong. Let's see, the TNT. Maybe the, oh, this is the damage hazard. Explosion. I see, so that force application is a private, okay. Yes. Sorry, I'm trying to remember what the heck I was doing. Stuff. So that kind of sends it going off crazy still. So maybe we should 25. Boom, boom, boom. Ah, that's fine. But yeah, I'm trying to think what would be the best visualization for the for the bomb in the mouth. Could just be like a countdown timer above his head. Like a 3, 2, 1, you're screwed. Woo! That was kind of fun. I actually timed that one really well. I'll never be able to replicate that, I bet. Never. Let's kill some slimes. I think the explosions need to be a little bigger as well. I think part of the problem right now is that the explosions are just they're kind of small. This is an explosion graphic from Wizards Lizard 1. Actually, what we can do is we can go into the animator, right? Animation. Let's see. Yeah, put it. No. Let's put it there. We'll go to animation. No. Yes. Explosion. Oh, there we go. Great. So the other thing we could do is we could scale this guy up. So when it gets to be, let's move that down there for now. Actually, let's move it all the way down here for now. When it gets to be, I guess that would be the biggest frame. We could scale it up to like 1.5, 1.5. And then all the relative stuff should just work. Like the circle collider should still be in the right spot, I believe. So we'll save that. And see what that looks like. It's a little bigger. Oops. Yeah. Oh no. I crashed the Unity editor. That doesn't happen very often. Yeah, I could continue the pulse timer for, like you could see it on Raga. Maybe Raga would start blinking red. Let's see. Oh, totally missed. Yeah, oh no. Woo! The small explosion felt kind of dinky. Let's see about these guys. Boom. Whoa! Oh no. How did that happen? It got sent into the wall. That's not good. Oh, I see what you're saying with the pulse timer. So like if we showed the sprite on his mouth, then you can continue it on that actual thing, so you know what you're holding as well. That's definitely something to think about. I was trying to think about, well, yeah, it would have to be something where we could use the existing sprite and overlay it over his sprite to make it look like he's carrying it, you know? For example, like, let's turn off these gizmos. You know, for example, well, I guess this is not going to be, the layers aren't correct, you know, but like if he was moving this way, it would be kind of like in front of his face, and then if he was moving that way, it would be kind of in the snout, you know. I guess we could have maybe like a single frame graphic for he's got his mouth open carrying something, and then we could just align the existing sprite, or maybe even shrink it down a little bit, you know, so it's not so large. But yeah, there's really no way that we could do specific sprites for each thing in his mouth, even though that would look a lot better. Oh man, I was kind of hoping it was gonna drift into the other explosive. think that the slimes can also trigger this stuff too, funnily enough right now. Let's see if I can like, nope. Sometimes it's hard to like peel these things off the wall. No. Yeah, so that was kind of the Mute Winters saying his cheeks could puff out when carrying and they could pulse red if the object can detonate. That's kind of where my head is going right now because I think the original plan for the carrying stuff was that he would just have a full mouth graphic where his cheeks are all, you know, puffy, like he's carrying something in his mouth. So you would see like this, you know, bulge in his mouth. And then, yeah, I was thinking that his whole sprite could just, not just his cheeks, but his whole sprite could just pulse red if it's about to blow up. The only problem with that, though, is that that's also like the pain. You know, he also pulses red when he takes damage. I don't know if that would be confusing or not. That was kind of fun. This is the playtime part of the stream. See, this is not cool. Because those things are getting violently thrown around, it seems like they're getting through the walls. I wonder if continuous collision detection would help that. This is always hard though. It's like, how do I know? Oh man, that was too slow. How do I know if the discrete collision is working the way I want, or the continuous? Whee! Whoa! You know, we have to like, we have to know that. Well, not know, but like, you know, you can't prove a negative kind of thing. We just hope that if we enable continuous on those guys, then they wouldn't go through the walls anymore. However, I'm absolutely certain that the continuous collision detection is going to be more expensive performance-wise. We're doing okay performance-wise right now, but you know, we don't have a lot of stuff in the level at the moment, so you know, that could get kind of crazy later on. But it does seem like with objects that are moving that quickly, it's possible for them to get kind of caught into the walls, apparently. So that's something we'll have to think about. Let's get this explosion out of here. We're in the main scene. So let's go check out, get status. So we added the spiked ball and the sports ball, and we worked on the explosives and the hazards. Add spiked ball and work on explosive explosion. That's feeling a little better. So Joason86, thanks for stopping by the stream. Says that to stop fast-moving objects going through things, there's a link, and I can take a look at that to learn how to avoid it. Thank you very much. I will definitely take a look at that. I'll have to look at it on my tablet later, because that's where I'm looking at chat, so I can't bring it up on my desktop right now. But I will check out that link later. Because I would like to avoid having the continuous collision, because like I said before, I'm pretty sure that it's more expensive to calculate continuous collision versus discrete collision. And you know, ideally we wouldn't be doing that all the time. So thank you very much for that link. I'm about to kind of wrap up my stream because I generally stream for about an hour and a half. So if you guys have any questions for the stuff we went over, or just Unity in general, or LDG, whatever, I will stick around for another 5 minutes or so while I wrap up and answer any of those questions. I will say that this has been a Wizards Lizard 2 game development. We are going to be launching a Kickstarter for this game very soon, within probably this next month. And it is a sequel to Wizards Lizard, which is a kind of Legend of Zelda top-down roguelike action RPG that we have on Steam right now. You can check out both games online on Steam, or you can also check them out at wizardslizard.com and wizardslizard.com/2 if you want to check out. If you want to sign up for the mailing list so you can be notified of major development milestones for Wizards Lizard 2. Hey, Malbane, thanks. I've been having a lot of fun doing the Unity stream. So I'm a big fan of Unity so far. I haven't really been using it for, I don't know, maybe about 4 months now, 5 months. But I don't know, having made complete games in HTML5, it's been a pretty big productivity boost for me, I think. Mute Winter's asking, how do I like Sublime for my editor? He's guessing it lacks semantic completion like Visual Studio Style ID. Yes, it has some. For one, I've been using Sublime Text for quite a long time, years and years and years. I can't even remember how long. So I'm really, really comfortable with it, and I like the way that it works. And I'm kind of one of these programmers where I don't like a big full-fledged IDE. I actually kind of prefer more of like a glorified text editor, if you will, where it's just got some syntax highlighting and good shortcuts for moving around the files and stuff like that. I find the this menu, this autocomplete fuzzy finder kind of thing for Sublime to be invaluable. And it has autocomplete, but only if it finds that string within the text. So like if I type get component here, I can autocomplete that really easily. But it wouldn't have like a library of stuff that you could just autocomplete. However, I'm sure that there's a package for that. Sublime Text is very extensible, so you can kind of just look for packages. So we could say like package, browse packages. Oops, not that one. Sorry. We could say no. Is it search or is it install? Excuse me. Oh, I don't think I installed the package manager yet. That's why I don't have it on this computer. I actually recently got a new PC about a month ago, and I haven't set up the package manager on Sublime Text. So I guess that says that I don't really need it all that much because I don't have it. But yes, the long story short is that you can install user-created packages for Sublime Text that will give you like Unity autocomplete strings. As far as I can tell, Unity is actually pretty good about pairing your editor. If you go into the, what is it? Is it File Preferences? There's like this external tools menu where you can set your external script editor. I have mine set to Sublime Text. Then you can set the arguments that go into that, and so you can do things like jump right to the file and the line. So I have it set up so where I can just double click on the Unity debugger and it brings me right to the file and the line where that debug statement happened to be. And then same thing, like if you open a script for a prefab, if I go into my project here in Unity and I go to my scripts folder and I just double click on one of these guys, it just opens the Sublime Text. So I'm right where I want to be. I can start editing. So all that stuff is awesome. I found that the interaction between Unity and Sublime Text is more than adequate for my needs, and because I've been using Sublime Text for so long, I'm actually more comfortable with it than I would be with Visual Studio or something. So Mute Winter's asking about, is there any integration with source control inside Unity for diffing non-C# changes? I think Unity basically shells out all of that stuff to the editor, and so in this case, it would be Visual Studio or whatever, or MonoDevelop. The thing that you want to do with Unity though is that you want to in your project, I think, let me see where that would be. Wait, no, this is Unity. Wow, that would be Sublime Text. In Unity, if you go to, I think, project settings, and then, is it editor? Yes. hidden meta files. So anyways, you want this asset serialization to be force text, because by default Unity will use binary format for like the meta files and stuff. And if you do force text, then it will use YAML files, and so you can actually I actually have my Sublime Text project set up to ignore YAML files because I don't generally want to edit them. But for example, let's say that we went into our prefabs and we have this wizard guy, and like let's say that we changed his position to 10, right? That's going to change the prefab file for Unity, and so that'll show up, in Git. And so, if you do a git diff, you can see that the local position here in this YAML file has changed from 0, 0, -1 to 10, 0, -1. And then it also kind of changes some other stuff too, because you're working with kind of automatically generated files. But I don't actually have a super great diffing solution on Windows yet. I used to use WinMerge way back in the day. I really like this program on OS X called Kaleidoscope, but they don't make it for Windows as far as I know. So I've just been using the kind of built-in git diff tool, which is not my favorite, but it gets the job done. But anyways, yeah, the upshot there is that you can absolutely use your standard git diffing workflow to diff Unity's YAML changes. Yeah, that's is pretty sweet. When I first started working on this stuff, I was actually kind of bummed to find out that like Unity doesn't have any kind of easy way for you to read and write your own YAML files. I kind of expected that, hey, they use YAML all over the place with their meta files and their prefabs for the text serialization, that I should be able to like have my own configuration files in YAML and have those be able to be read in very easily. But for whatever reason they don't, and that's the reason I actually went with XML for our level data, because the XML I can read into C# really easily without any needs for any plugins or anything. I might have talked about this, actually I know I talked about this on a previous live stream weeks and weeks ago about why I went with XML, but it basically came down to the fact that I could do XML natively in C# without any kind of external libraries, and that wasn't the case for YAML or JSON. I'll also check out kdiff mute winter. It's funny, your name reminds me of of Heroes of the Storm. There's a hero called Jaina who's like a frost mage, and I like to play her sometimes, and she has a talent called Wintermute. So I keep wanting to say your name is Wintermute. Anyways, yeah, Kaleidoscope is amazing. I will check out kdiff on Windows because I am looking for a better graphical diff tool on Windows, because like I said before, the git command line thing just really doesn't do it for me. It's workable, and I think the thing with Git is that Git's kind of complicated in a lot of ways, and so you almost need to know the command line at some point in order to unscrew yourself sometimes. But for diffing specifically, I would much rather use a graphical tool. I'll check out Beyond Compare as well. That's another good suggestion. Anyways, I hope you guys have enjoyed the stream. I always have a great time. So 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, or Pacific Daylight Time right now, rather. But anyway, 6 p.m. Pacific Time on Mondays, doing the stream, and you can keep up with a Wizards Lizard 2 development. Like I said, hit wizardslizard.com/2 if you want to sign up for our mailing list. You can be updated on all the happenings with the game. Kickstarter coming imminently. And we've already gotten the okay from Steam to launch on Steam, so we don't have to go through Greenlight, which is awesome. And yeah, so hopefully we'll be bringing this game to your PC in not too much longer. So we're really excited about it, and I hope you guys are too. And thanks for coming out, and I will see you next week. Ship it.